Welcome back, everyone. The video you're about to watch is part of a live stream series that I do on Twitch where I teach people how to build an Android app from start to finish by building a task management application. I've removed the episode numbers from the videos because it's designed that each one can be consumed individually. Each week, I pick a particular topic or feature and focus on just that for the live stream. If you are interested in watching the full playlist, check out the links in the description below. But if you just found this one and it intrigues you, I hope you enjoy it and let me know what you think. Happy Wednesday, everyone. Welcome back. Hope everyone had a great week. I am excited to get back. Where am I? There we go. That's kind of centered. Um, Excited to be back. Excited to figure out what we're going to do today because I don't have any plans as usual. Although I was looking right before the stream and I saw that we had slightly unfinished business from last week. So we'll probably start by working on that. And then I had a couple ideas of some stuff I might want to work on tonight. We'll figure it out as we go. But why don't I start by get everyone up to speed on what we did last week and what that quote unquote unfinished business is. So switch over to our coding view here. So last week was fun. Last week we worked on a handful of small features that I wanted to work on. Things like copy changes. We tweaked what that empty state says. That just went away because I'm running a new build. But we tweaked some copy changes. We made it so that when I launch the add task screen, the description field gets auto-focused so I can begin typing right away. And then another thing that was cool about this screen is we made it so that if I, page over to a specific date, like April 12th, and I go to add a task, the date field is actually pre-populated with the date that we were viewing. So I don't have to change it. Like the idea being if I'm looking at April 12th, then I click the plus button. That's probably the day that I want to schedule whatever task I'm about to create. Obviously, I can open this and I could change that, but that was the idea behind that. And so that was the last thing that we worked on last week, and two things about that. So here is the pull request for it, if anyone is curious. And we're going to do two things. One, we're going to figure out why this build failed. And I also sent this pull request to Raphael, who built the composed destinations library that we use for navigations. Speaking of Raphael, we are working on. I was just telling them about how I sent you this pull request, and you gave me some nice feedback. And so we're going to add that feedback, and then I'm also going to figure out why this build failed, which is probably not your fault. It's probably my fault, but I haven't even looked yet. We'll figure it out together. So what is the feedback? This is actually an interesting point from something that some of you who were watching last week may have seen this. So let's talk a little bit about how this navigation works, just to get people up to speed if you're unfamiliar with the project. Because this navigation here is not as simple as it may seem, because we actually have conditional navigation when we click this little plus button. And that is all actually right here on the screen. So we do this check right here, where we check if we are... Hi, Prince. Thanks for coming by. We check if we are not on a phone. That's what this window size not equal to compact means. If we are not on a phone, if we're on, say, like a foldable or tablet large screen device, we launch a dialog instead of a full screen add task scenario. And if we are on a phone, we go to this add task screen destination, which is the full screen version. And then within these, even though they are two different destinations, they end up rendering almost identical content. One is a dialogue, one is full screen, but the stuff inside is the same. And that's why we have this add task nav arguments data class here, because whichever screen I'm going to, I want to give it the same arguments. So I've created that data class. So with that, that is how we pass the date into our new screen. And one of the reasons we were confused is trying to figure out how we want to read that property after we navigate. So what we did is we consume a saved state handle inside our view model, and because we're using Dagger Hilt, this gets auto-populated for us. We don't really have to worry about creating or managing that save state handle, but this is where it would maintain like navigation arguments that are passed into a screen. And so when we want to get that initial date, we call save state handle .get with the type that we want, and then like a key to pull. Because inside a save state handle is there's basically a bundle or some other form of key value pair to pull the date. So that's getting you all up to speed. Well, what is a different way we could have done this? Well, a cool thing about the composed destinations library is all those navigation arguments are type safe. Just to show you really quick what I mean, if we look at the add task screen destination, not the generated one, but the mine, we have this destination annotation, and we give it a navargs delegate, which is a reference to that data class of all the information we want to pass into our screen. And knowing this, we could actually get those arguments right from the save state handle. So we could do like add task screen destination dot args from, and then we can give it our save state handle, and this will give me a type safe. Well, it basically gives me my, add task nav args arguments class from the save state handle. So instead of pulling the initial date ourselves, we can just reference it from our navargs. And because of that type safety, I don't have to worry about this potentially being nullable either. So just to clarify why I didn't do this last week is I was worried about what this name right here would mean. Because as I just explained, we could be navigating to a screen or a dialogue. And I was worried that I couldn't just call add task screen destination if I might not have been on the screen destination. But because this args from basically converts it to that same, add task nav arguments class as the dialogue, and it's just doing the same sort of key value pair mapping from the save state handle, like it doesn't really matter, is what I'm trying to say. So yeah, let's look at the implementation. That's a really good point. So, and this is exactly what I said. So it returns an instance of the add task nav arguments where it pulls the information from the save state handle. So if I change this to the, say, add task dialog destination, the source code is actually exactly the same. Even though they are two different destinations, the source code is exactly the same because both destinations have the same arguments going inside. So we can use this type safe approach here. And then what I'll do for myself, because I don't want to get confused in the future, is I can say, even though this screen can be navigated to using either add task dialog destination or add task screen destination, because they both have the same type safe nav arguments delegate of add task nav arguments, it doesn't matter what we use here to call args from save state handle, because both will have the same functionality. So I've learning this, this will help future me if I ever go back and wonder, is this a potential bug? Because this seems tightly coupled to the screen navigation approach. It's not. So a lot of y'all know I love documentation. I am not part of the team that thinks comments are unnecessary. I think they can provide a lot of benefit, and I think this was a great chance that they could. So that was the first thing. Let's say implementing PR feedback to use type safe argument reading. So we're off to a good start already. That is cleaning up from the end of last week's stream. And in addition, I mentioned that our uh, GitHub Actions workflow for running the test was failing, and I haven't yet figured out why. So we're going to go look at that together right now. Um, Looks like we had two failing tests inside the add task view model test. Um, Submit with empty description and validate. Looks like we got some class cast exception here. Um, a good idea to avoid the awkwardness. Yeah, I think it would almost be it would be cool if I could do like add task nav arguments dot args from, but I guess the downfall of that is in order for you to do that, I would have to put an annotation on the arguments class, and I don't know, maybe I should. You can think about it. You're the library developer, and you can tell me what you think. But what I'm going to do, so that was add task view model test that was failing. So we're going to open up that class. I am just going to run a debug in Android Studio, and hopefully the console output here will give me a little more detail into why those tests are failing. Um, it's entirely possible that it has to do with how we mock this initial date, um, because we have to mock like what is returned from the save state handle. Uh, which I thought I verified last week when we ran these tests, but I could be wrong. So um, we'll find out together. So this is the fun part of my streams where we just have to wait a little bit on a Gradle build, but hopefully things move pretty fast today. Also, thank you, because this happened during my getting started screen. Thank you, Montemoris, Mert, and Reem for the follow. Really appreciate it. Welcome to the stream. You can just generate an extension function to the class. Oh, yeah, that makes sense. Okay, cool. So we did get something here. Object cannot be cast to class java.time.localDate. Um, Interesting. So, oh, is that okay? I see. So in this particular test, I'm not mocking that initial date, um, and that is the problem. So that is why it's unable to read anything. Um, I could, as maybe something that would be like, this is fine. Um, so what I pause to consider is that I could make it so that I have some sort of centralized mocking of that initial date so that I don't have to mock mock it for every single test in this file. Um, and that's probably what I should do, but I'm going to avoid that for right now because I'm lazy, and also I think sometimes I like having each test independent. I think shared test logic can be good, but you also have to be careful with it because if people don't realize there's some sort of shared setup for tests, it becomes very hard to remember like what needs to be fixed or where to look if a test starts failing. But they all pass now, so let's go ahead and commit this. Fixing tests. We will wait for the GitHub action workflow to finish running, um, but once it does, we can go ahead and merge that. So yeah, what now we've got to think about what we want to work on today because I didn't really prepare for that. Um, we can look at the handy backlog here of issues. So this one is what we are about to close. Um, we talked about maybe having a way to view past incomplete tasks. So let me fill some of y'all in if there's any other newbies here. With this, you know, what this project does so far is we just have like a day by day view of tasks that need to get completed. Um, And that's cool and all, but if I ever like, maybe I don't complete something for any number of reasons, I don't necessarily want it to be lost in the void. Um, but uh, I don't know yet what would be a good way to surface those previous tasks. So that's why that list is in there. Um, One thing I was actually thinking about working on that I think would be fun to do is like allowing a user to reschedule a task. Um, I think it would be neat if we could. So right now we have this reschedule button on our task list, and it doesn't do anything. Um, I think it would be cool to have like this reschedule the user or reschedule the task. I don't know. Is there anyone in chat? Anything you want to work on? Another idea while you're thinking about this, that is developer experience related. So a while ago, we did a stream where we began setting up a multi-module app structure, but we didn't quite finish it. Um, and I was thinking about um, going back and doing some more work on that, moving some things out of the app module and into other modules, but that certainly doesn't have to happen today. If no one else has any strong feelings, I'll probably say let's begin working on the reschedule task idea. Um, that would probably be my preference. So, um, anyone in chat have any topics or feature ideas or something that you want to see us work on today? Um, all right, we're going to work on rescheduling a task. So, and with that, actually, we could probably work on some of these version and number updates because we're behind um, on all that stuff. But okay, so what? That was TOA 88. Okay, so let's go to development, and let's make a new branch. TOA 88 reschedule task. So there's actually I had a couple ideas here. Oh, you know what? Since I see people in chat, but I'm not sure what to do. Can I? Oh, I can manage a poll. And here's what I'm going to ask. So, um, I'm thinking about the reschedule screen, um, and here we go. So I'm going to make a poll here, so y'all can vote. Because when we talk about rescheduling a task, Fawn, thank you for the follow. Um, I think, two ways that we could consider this UI. We can either have like a bottom sheet that comes up. That would be like, oh, I marked that as done. Um, we could have like a bottom sheet that comes up that says like, hey, tap this, when do you want to reschedule it? Or we could have a dialogue that comes up. And I don't know if there's a right or wrong answer here. I don't know if there's something specific that y'all like to see, or maybe you just want to learn one for the other, because let me say, like, I have very minimal experience with bottom sheets in Jetpack Compose, so that would be a whole learning experience for me. Um, or, I mean, I don't think that we want like a full screen view the same way this does. Maybe if we did a more like holistic edit of a task, including not just rescheduling, but editing like the description, adding additional info, that would be a good full screen thing. But I think if we're rescheduling, we just need a date. I suppose a third option that I didn't put in the poll, so you're going to have to tell me in chat if you like this better, is what if this just pulled up the date picker? Like I clearly clicked reschedule. Like the thing I need is when do I want to reschedule it? So we could just pull up the date picker. And then when you select a value from that date picker, upon the date picker closing is when we'll update the task. And that's suddenly feeling like potentially the ideal user experience to me. Not to say that the bottom sheet one wouldn't be a fun learning exercise. So feel free to let me know in chat if you prefer going straight into the date picker. Uh, all right, we got to vote for date picker. Um, let's see, what are the results of our? Okay, chat said dialogue for uh, the whole thing, which I guess this makes sense. So we go straight to the day picker. Okay, we can do that. So all right, we got two votes. All right, so we're gonna go with just pulling up the day picker right away. Okay, so before we do that, let us make sure we have the data layer work to do this. So we have a task repository in our code base, it's an interface, and it does have an update task um, call already. When it looks like it's nice. So it's already a data layer work to update a task inside our room database. So what we need to do is, well, we need to set up a use case for this. Um, yeah, dialogue one, but we'll go right into the date picker like we talked about. So one thing is we need to set up a use case for this. So I think, yeah, okay, it's not there. Um, let's look at um, our, let's see. So we've got task list, use cases, and here's where we define all of our use cases. So we've got like get all tasks use case, get task for date, mark task as complete. So we could make a an update task use case. Now I'm thinking, do I want the use case to be update task and then have like the one layer up, say the view model responsible for manipulating the task entity and then just passing it into the use case? Or do I want the use case to be more specific and call it like reschedule task use case? And what we would put in this use case um, is we would have like invoke and it would take like the task and then like the new date being like a local date. What do y'all think? Um, I mean, technically, there could be both. You could have one that is responsible for updating and one that is responsible for actually modifying the task, but that feels like a little bit of overkill. I mean, it doesn't feel like overkill because imagine we have an edit screen in the future. We're going to have a little bit of duplicated logic around this editing, but we could also avoid optimizing prematurely and we could refactor some of that in the future, which is probably what I would do. Hey, Trax, thanks for coming by. Um, yeah, I think that's what I would do. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. So this will consume a task and a new date that we want to schedule that task for. We will modify the task and save that change in our data layer. That's what we're gonna do here. So then we can make our concrete implementation, as always, prod reschedule task use case. So this will need a repository, and this will be a reschedule task use case. I'm just getting used to writing some documentation here again. So concrete implementation of a reschedule task use case that will save the task change inside of the given repository. Nice. Okay. So what do we do? Well, we can get updated task will just be task.copy um, scheduled date. Ah, right. I did this. Okay. This has bothered me before, but One of the issues being we moved task into a core module where we stored the the timestamp, the scheduled date as like milliseconds instead of using an actual date type, which is something I regret. Um, because this conversion from local date over to milliseconds is kind of annoying. So, but it made sense because at the time we were like, hey, it would be nice to not be tightly coupled to a specific datetime library, um, which is fine, but maybe we just need to worry about a conversion ourselves. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make new file, everyone's favorite. Let's make a date utils file here. Um, and let's just write an extension function and do like local date uh, to epoch millis because I don't think we have that anywhere. No, well, we have to do this like this whole thing in order to get it. So we want to return a long, and then we'll just do return this. We go start of day in the system time zone. Hey, Nevercom, welcome back. Convert it to an instant, get the epoch milli. Okay, so converts. Actually, I don't need to document this one. This one's pretty clear. Um, nice. That cleans that up. And yeah, so there is our reschedule task use case. So, okay. All right. Now what? What is the next thing I want to do? The next thing we're going to do is we're going to go into our task list view model and we'll add this dependency because we know we're going to need it. Um, I just remembered because of Dagger, we're going to need to make sure we add the annotations to this. Um, okay, so our view model is going to take in that reschedule task use case. Um, and what we'll do is uh, um, hmm, we will need um, I'm thinking about what this public function should look like. And if it's all right, I think this is going to be wrong for reasons I'm trying to foreshadow, but let's start here and then we can always clean up later. So let's say we had a function, on task rescheduled, and that consumes the task and the new date. And what this function would do is we would just proxy this over, you know, um, reschedule task use case dot invoke get task new date. And this will be suspending function. So let's do view model scope dot launch, and then we can call this. Okay, I think this is going to be wrong. I'll tell you why in a second, but let's roll with it for now. So we could say we added domain logic to support rescheduling a task. That's the first step. Good work, everybody. So now we will add the code to um, handle that reschedule button click to trigger the date picker. So let's look at, just as a refresher, how we launch a date picker in this app. Because we have a TOA date picker composable that we made before. And here's kind of how it works. So we keep a reference to a dialog state, and then we create a material dialog that has like information like we've got a date picker, we've got what happens when the date changes, but then when we want it to show, we basically just call dialog state.show. So we can do this. We can do this. So I realize it may be a little tricky. Uh, this we're just doing fun stuff. Okay, let's go to our task list screen now. And why it's tricky is because wait, why? Aha, not this one. We want task list content because this shows the actual UI. So um, interesting. Hey, Montemoris, thank you for stopping by. Welcome to the channel. How are you doing today? Um, okay, so we have this toolbar and dialog. Can you do all your Android coding for Android on Vim? Uh, I mean, it's one of those questions like technically, you could modify all of these files in Vim if that's what you're really comfortable with. I am not, and so I wouldn't necessarily recommend it, but um, you could. I think it would just be very difficult. If you're looking for a possible solution, though, so there is a plugin for Android Studio. Um, I'd have to search it, but there is like a Vim plugin for Android Studio or IntelliJ in general. And what it does is it converts this portion, this text editing portion right here, to like a Vim console. So you get the nice package structure over here, you get all the IDE run buttons that are really helpful, but the actual text portion here, you could like use all of Vim's shortcuts for and kind of get like the best of both worlds. That's something worth looking into if you're really comfortable with a Vim environment. Um, yeah. Okay, so there is a toolbar and dialog um, that we already have here where um, we scope this dialog and its dialog state into the toolbar view um, because that's where it exists. So we almost want to just do the same thing here. Um, like, I don't necessarily want to put it inside task list, um, but we could do it right here. We could have like reschedule task date picker dialog state being like remember material dialog state. Um, we can add the material dialog. Let's look at, I'm just going to pull this actually. Um, we're going to do the same thing here. We're going to have the same dialog. It's going to be the reschedule task date picker dialog state. Okay, cancel the initial date. Let's make that. Ooh. Yeah, let's make that whatever our selected date is. This makes sense. Um, and then on date changed, here we can, So this is what I was worried about was going to be confusing. So when this particular dialog is shown, um, we need some way, I can't just call view model, I don't have a reference here. But even if I did have a reference to the view model, I, I don't have a way to know what task we are intending to reschedule. So that's the problem, right? That is that is the problem. So the reason I was thinking about um, changing the way the view model portion worked is I've been thinking about the newer Android guidelines around um, architecture and things like that, and they talk about the importance of, like state-based navigation and state-based UI updates, rather than having your view state show something like should show date picker dialog or whatever. It tries to capture what's happening as like a state. And so what I think we could do, um, what I think we could do, we'll see how this go, is on our view state, we could have something like um, rescheduling task. And like this could be, you know, um, we could note this. So if this is not null, this is the task entity that the user is currently rescheduling. So we can capture this in our state and say like, hey, we are trying to reschedule this task. Our UI can then say, hey, we're rescheduling a task. Let's show the date picker. And when the date picker is closed, we can say, well, we know what task is currently being rescheduled. Here is the new date that it should be rescheduled to. And then we update our state, and then everything is fine. I think this makes sense. So, um, yeah, let's roll with this, and let's see if we can get this to work. So let's go back to the task list view model, and let's rethink how this works. So let's instead say on reschedule click, which is on reschedule button click, we want to know when a actually, do we have this already? We do not. We want to know when the reschedule button is clicked for a task. And when we do, we could say view state dot update. I learned about this last week, actually. I should share this. Instead of doing this view state dot value equals view state dot value dot copy, you can do view state dot update and then give it your new state. Um, with like the rescheduling task, blah, blah. And the benefit of using this update call is that it's actually more thread safe than this one is. So it's actually recommended that you use this instead. I thought that was really fascinating. That is something that I learned since last week. Let me know if you want to learn more about why that's uh, more thread safe. But yeah, so we've got that update call, and then we could say, okay, like we could say, I want something similar to on date selected, but not actually this. Actually, let's keep this on task reschedule. But then what we can do is after that's done, we could say, or we can fire off this coroutine, and then we could do update our view state, and then here we could say, rescheduling task is null. Um, After we've called this, we reschedule it, and then we set this to null. I hope this works. So yeah, it was a really interesting blog post. So okay, so how does all this change um, our UI? Well, what changes is where did I put all this dialogue code? Let's keep this. Let's keep this, but I think we're going to pull this out. Or do we leave it here? I think we can leave it here. So what we can do then is we can say, the problem is we don't have a like reference to the view model here. So what we can do is we can say we can just make another lambda here on task rescheduled and have that consume the task, the local date, and unit. And so in onDateChanged here, we call on task rescheduled dot invoke. The task will be the viewState dot rescheduling task. Oh, I guess I don't have things here. And then new date. Uh, I guess this relies on us having a task to be rescheduled, or it assumes we do. Can I not? Oh. I don't like this wording here, this rescheduling task. But I don't know if like task to reschedule is a better way of saying it. Um, maybe it is. So yeah, that's how we do this. When we change the date for this particular dialogue, um, we can do yeah, we get the task to reschedule. If it's not null, we say, hey, this is what we're rescheduling. Our compose preview is going to yell at me because we're not showing anything here. But now we need to think about, well, what's going to trigger showing this dialogue? And I think what we could do is we could do some sort of like launched effect with the view state, and then we could say like if view state that task to reschedule is not equal to null, then reschedule task date, pick a dialog date that show. I think that's what we want here. And this actually doesn't belong and necessarily have to go inside the sort of task list here. So we could make a private function here and let's call it reschedule task dialog. Um, yeah, this is actually nice because then this particular line is not specific to the state picker idea we're going for, but it could be if we change this dialog to something else in the future. So now our screen needs to be updated because here on task rescheduled, we'll just chuck that over to our view model. Let's try it out. Let's see what happens. This was not a TDD approach as usual, but I would like to write some tests before we merge this. While that's building, speaking of testing, let's check out our other was nice. So the date stuff that we did at the start of the stream to clean up from last week, that is all working. And our coverage increased 1.5%. So I'll call that a win. So we'll go ahead and merge that pull request from last week. Okay, let's see. Reschedule task use case cannot be provided without a at provides annotation. Aha. I missed another HILT setup. Inside our use case module, we need to just set up the binding so that HILT knows when we want a certain interface and knows what implementation to give us. So the way this works, if you haven't seen it, it's kind of nice. So you call this binds, which is what says, hey, I want to create a one-to-one mapping between a certain interface and its implementation. The return value is the interface that you're contracting to. And then the, argument, which you can call whatever you want, but the point is that its type is your concrete implementation of what you want to be provided. So interface type. That's how this binds method works with compose, or with HILT, sorry. And that's a great other segue to some personal news that you may have seen on Twitter. But now that some conferences are coming back, very excited to announce that I will be speaking at DroidCon San Francisco on June 2nd and 3rd. Well, I will be speaking on one of those days. But that is when the conference is, and I'll be giving my a in-person version of the Imposter's Guide to Dependency Injection, which will be a little bit longer and more detailed than the YouTube video of the same title. I'm very excited. Hopefully, all of you can join us in San Francisco. If you cannot, don't worry, things will end up on YouTube. Um, yeah. All right, we're running. Moment of truth. So here's what I'm going to do. Um, I am going to tap on this reschedule button. I am hoping that a date picker dialog will come up, which I will change to tomorrow. And um, then we should hopefully see it close. We should see the UI. This UI will change, and then we can tab over to tomorrow and see the task. So let's see what happens. Love it. Nothing happened. Okay. Um, that is because we never implemented a reschedule click listener. I knew it would be something simple. Um, all right. Every time, every time. If your button doesn't work, the first thing you gotta check is a click listener. You might think you've added it, you probably didn't. Huh. All right, let's try it again. Nice. Day picker comes up. We'll change this to April 7th. Hit OK. Hang in. Okay, it went away, but it did not get rescheduled. Um, Interesting. Okay. So, did this get triggered? Let's find out. It did. This did get rescheduled. This did get triggered. Um, so what happened? Oh my God! I never finished implementing this function. What happened? That was a serious ADHD moment here. Ooh, okay. I'm glad I clicked into this. Repository.update task, updated task. All right, all right. Third time's a charm. I hopefully have implemented all of the code relevant to this process now. Uh, nice. Nope, the repository part we knew was ready. Okay, so it did get rescheduled. This is cool. Um, with that, I actually thought of a very slight possible adjustment. Um, Inside task list content, we have the reschedule task dialog. The initial date, we give it to the selected date, but what if we did view state dot task to reschedule dot oh god. Okay, yeah, we're just gonna use the scheduled date. Um, I was gonna say we should give it like the date of the task that we're trying to reschedule, but this should be one and the same. Um, cool. You want to see it again? We reschedule. Let's go to like April 8th this time. We hit OK, tab our way over to April 8th, and now we see our task again. We could reschedule it back to today, and boom, boom. Um, Amazing. This is great. Let's go ahead and commit this. So, supporting uh, date picker dialog to reschedule a task. I love it. Um, this is pretty cool. So we could write some tests for this. I mean, we should write some tests for this. Um, let's make the pull request, and then something I would do instead of trying to go for 100% coverage here, I'm going to make the pull request. We'll look at the diff together, and maybe we can pick out like a certain flow that we think would be good to write some tests for. Um, Showing they pick a dialog, let user reschedule a task. They fixes number 88. Enhancement, and go ahead and create pull request. Okay, so what changed? One thing my GitHub Actions are going to warn me about instantly is we need to update the stream history. So let's do this. Got stream 25. We'll call this rescheduling tasks. That'll be our thing today. Um, we will do a little more than just this. Don't worry, I don't think we're done yet. Because in addition to writing some tests, I think we should do some validation on this flow. Um, Specifically, like I should not be able to reschedule for the past, right? And I don't know how we would do this. I don't know if the composed material dialogues in the library we use to launch the state picker, I don't know if it will allow me to like veto a date. Um, But if I can't, what we could do is we could just like, if the user does this and they say, okay, we could do the validation ourselves and maybe show like a little snack bar that says like, hey, you're not allowed to do that. Or an error dialog that says you're not allowed to do that. Pick a new date. Um, Something we could think about. But let's talk about some testing first. So we can ignore this file and this file. Um, I'm not worried about testing the use case. I think what I would do, what I would test is have a good night. Thanks for stopping by. We'll see you next week. Um, I think the class that I would want to write some tests for here is our view model. Um, let's make sure that we could handle rescheduling a task with our inside our view model. So let's do that. Let us go into well, one thing is we're going to go into our task list view model robot that handles all the public functions for us, giving kind of a proxy between our tests and the view model. We're going to have like a click reschedule button with a task. And this will just call view model, oops, dot on reschedule button clicked with that task. And then we could have something like selected date to reschedule task. Or, whoops, do the same like reschedule task for date. It will take a task. It will take a date. Um, and then we could do view model. Oh my god. Task rescheduled. Task date. If I could type. Um, that's big things. We need to give it a. We need to create a use case here. Let's just let's go into our fakes repository or our fakes folder. Oh, no, I don't want to put that here. Hold on. Somewhere we should have like a folder with fake use cases. Yeah, here we go. We'll make a fake reschedule task use case. Um, and then here, I think what I'm going to do, I'm not gonna worry about the assertion right now. I'm gonna cut some corners, and we're just gonna put like a no op here. Um, am I gonna regret that? No, because this doesn't return anything. We could do something to like verify that it's been called, but um, I'm not gonna worry about that today. So we will just do reschedule task use case being fake reschedule task use case. Cool. So that's the robot update. So we can now go to the view model test and let's make a new test. Um, and let's call this reschedule task. So I'm gonna keep the same initial data as before. Actually, let's just include like one incomplete task. Um, let's do test robot. We'll say mock task result for date. Um, for today, result will be task list result. Um, is this wrong? Oh, we'll just do flow of task list result. We will say build view model. Um, we will. So we've got our tasks. We can do, um, let's say, yeah. So like we could do this, and then we could just say like, you know, click reschedule button, and we could give it that incomplete task. And then we could do something like we have this assert view state, where our expected view state at this point would be like show loading is false. What do I have to give here? Um, we could say incomplete task would be list of incomplete tasks. Completed tasks would be an empty list, and our task to reschedule would be that incomplete task. That's what we expect to be true after we click this reschedule button. Um, then we could, reschedule task for date. Task could be incomplete task. Date could be like, you know, tomorrow. But what we're missing here is no assertion to verify that um, use case was triggered. Like that's what we haven't done yet, and we probably should. So let's run this test. Let's make sure this passes as it is, and then we can maybe modify our fake use case to be able to verify that like it was invoked with the correct um like date and everything. Oh, cool. All right, that passed, that worked. I oh, that hurt. I don't know what I did, but okay. I'm getting old. I can't even drink soda anymore. Um okay. So this part is working. Gonna do a single commit here. We'll say adding test for rescheduling inside view model. We may write some other tests here, actually, the more I think about this. Well, one is, so let's update this use case to keep track of what was actually invoked. And here's what's kind of annoying about like these two properties if I were writing another use case or another fake implementation and I want to keep track of the times it was invoked, I would keep something um, like a list of things that are invoked, which would be like a mutable list um, of like task. I would get like all of the tasks that this is called for. And then so when it's invoked, I would say invocations.add, task. And then we could provide something like assert um, invocation for task, something like that. That would take in like a task, and then do like assert that invocations that contains task. Uh, Anyways, this is what I would do. But this is all to say, like, this is kind of annoying when I have two parameters here. And I guess it's only annoying because I would maybe make this a pair of like task local date. And I wish I didn't have to do that, but that's fine. We'll just do that. So we can do invocations.add, and then we can say task to due date. That's like this infix to function. Maybe not the most readable in this case. Let's do pair task due date. Um, and then here we can say like pair task local date. I think that's the word here. Is this the right word? I could be making this up, but I think this is the word. If you want to track each time like a function is called, it's yeah, if you want to track that you've invoked something, it's an invocation. I think that's correct. Um, so all this to say is we could say like um, in our view model robot, let's add another one and let's say like assert task rescheduled for date. We would get the task, we would get the date, um, and then we would say, I need to make it up here. Let's do fake reschedule task use case. I can't just define it inside the constructor. I need something that I can reference at the class level here. So we put this up at the class level, and then we say, okay, fake reschedule task use case dot assert invocation, and then we could say pair task date. So now in our test class, we can get rid of this comment, and then we can say, assert task rescheduled for date, task being incomplete task, date being, tomorrow. Um, and let's clean that up as well. Let's do tomorrow being now plus days, one, and then we can uh, share the property here between these two lines. Um, cool. Let's run this again. Let's make sure this test still passes. And the only other additional logic I was thinking about doing is I was going to skip testing this use case implementation because it's just like proxying to the repository. Except there is a little bit of work here in that we are copying um, to a nude task. So I could write a test that says like, hey, make sure that when you reschedule, we're copying the right fields and to the right value. That's what I think I would do. So cool, this passed. So that is what we're gonna do next. Let's create a prod reschedule task use case test. Um, put that inside our source directory. Let's get this up. So um, we're going to need a fake repository, which we should already have. Fake task repository. Um, we could get like a use case being um, rescheduled task use case, prod rescheduled task use case, um, repository equals fake repository. And okay, so let's run a test. Let's just call it rescheduled task. Um, do I have? Did I ever make like test fakes? I did not. Okay, so we'll have to make our own task. Um, uh, I don't know. We can just actually put 0 here. That could be our initial task. We could say like new date being, tomorrow. Uh, and here we go. So we could do use case dot invoke initial task, due date. Aha. This will need to be we'll use run test here. Um, and one thing is, so we would want to keep track, like expected new task would be like initial task dot copy, scheduled date being new date dot to epoch millions, and then we can say fake repository dot. We don't have. We're gonna have to make it. We don't keep track of the. Oh wait, we do have update test results. Okay, so we can test it implicitly if we do. Where'd my file go? If I run this by itself, um, this should fail. And that's because we need to basically tell our repository to mock like a result for this. Um, ooh, access to GitHub's Copilot, and it's great for suggesting values for data classes and tests. That's exciting. That seems like that would save me a lot of time. Um, so here we can do fake repository dot update test results. Did I really make that public? That's fine. Expect a new task. We'll just say, why did I make this public? I feel like I shouldn't have. Oh, I guess I could. Okay, that's fine. Um, equals result dot success unit. I need to actually import my result class. Okay, so by saying that I've specified the like return result value, um, this use case will only work if it's called with the expected new task. That's kind of by design. So we'll try this out, and hopefully that works out. If it does, we will push this. And what did I say was the other thing I wanted to do? Oh, I wanted to work on data validation, um, which we can do. So let's go ahead and commit this. We could say adding more tests. I don't know if I have to worry about merge conflicts here. I don't think so. But after we push, we'll check in GitHub. Okay, push succeeded. Um, okay, there are no merge conflicts. So we'll just need to wait for these to run. Um, but why don't we move this into a new branch, and we'll call it reschedule date validation.